Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about chill and low stress. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what is the best niche to get into if you want a chill and low stress work environment? So this was posted on a video I made, which is called I don't want to be a full stack developer, what should be my niche? And basically, in that video, I just outline the three most common niches, or like, if you're not going to be a full stack developer, it's usually front end, back end, or ops, like DevOps, or something similar like that. And so the reason why I find this to be a bit of an interesting question is because if you want a chill and low stress work environment, or like if you want a chill and low stress job in IT, I'm not sure. I've never heard. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to assume that you're ignorant of what you're getting yourself into. But in general, guys, software development is not chill and low stress for quite some time, and for some people, it never becomes chill and low stress. This is a very fast-moving industry. It is, depending on how you define chill and low stress. I mean, it can be extremely chill and low stress depending on the company. Some companies I've worked with where like they don't actually care almost never when things get shipped. And I mean, it's not like there is a rule saying that everything has to be stressful and so forth, but the norm is usually that there's a deadline, there are expectations and stakeholders, and you have a lot of dynamic problems which in the beginning of things you don't know how to fix. It's very rare that anyone I know in IT has like a light workload where they don't really have to concern themselves so much about the deadlines or expectations and stuff like that. It's usually the opposite. It's usually the case that a lot of software developers feel stressed, especially in the early days. It's 10 times worse usually for a junior developer than it is for a senior. I will touch on under what circumstances I believe at the very least you can have a chill and low stress work process as a software developer. But full disclosure, guys, for the first few years, that's practically almost never. For the norm, at the very least, let's just call it the norm, is not going to be that you have a chill and low stress environment. It doesn't really matter what niche you go into. I mean, sure, if there are different rings of hell, as I like to say, but or as someone else said as well. There's really like ops, depending on the company, is a lot worse in terms of stress than maybe say front end. But it's not exclusive, because it really comes down to what type of product are you working on, because the product is going to determine a lot about how much work you have to do, and then of course how competent is your stakeholder or your PO or whoever is like setting the schedule. That's also going to be a big factor. How big is the company, and like what is the nature of the project and so forth. There are so many factors that come down, all boil down to one specific thing, and that is when is it done. That's the thing that determines everything. When is it done? And if you have stakeholders who have a lot of high expectations on fast deliveries, you're always going to be stressed or like have pressure on you, until you either learn how to kind of roll with the punches, or you I've never really seen anybody have a nervous breakdown or anything like that, because it's usually not the case. But there are a lot of software developers who have who feel a lot of anxiety and stress until they learn how to deal with it. As I said, especially in the junior stages. The thing that is usually, in my opinion, the most healthy thing is to realize that the stress and like anxiety that you might feel is in the beginning due to lack of skill usually. Like there's a, well, it's not due to lack of skill per se, but in the beginning of things it takes you a while to learn how to do things, so things take a little bit longer usually for you than it takes when you have a few years of experience. But once you get to that point when you have enough experience to do the job well as a professional, then the realization that you have to make is that all the anxiety and stress and like the things that might be in competition to towards the chill and low stress environment, it's actually you who is allowing it to happen. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it's actually very simple. You choose as a software developer to accept working conditions that make you feel stressed. You choose to not say anything or to comply when somebody says that we need to ship this today, and you say, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's going to take at least until tomorrow or things like that. You choose to indulge the stress mongers and the people who are like causing the issue, because at the end of the day, guys, you are not when you are a serious software developer and you know how to do the job well, it's not your fault that something takes 2 days when somebody wants it in 1. It's their fault. It's the same thing as saying that you should be able to build a building in a certain amount of time. As I like to say, the problem is what the problem is. There's no way to fix it. It's always down to that. If you know that you are skilled enough to work at a professional level, then nobody could do it faster. It's that simple. And that's why I gave the only thing I wrote back to the subscriber is courage is the only niche that you can get into to have a chill and low stress work environment. I achieved this it wasn't all that long ago, and now I just never feel stressed over anything at work. Never. And it's really simple, because I came to this realization that, as I said, guys, in the beginning you think, especially as a junior, that everything's your fault. You think that you can code away every single problem, and it takes a while, and you have to have a few really horrible, at least that's what needed to happen for me, a few really horrible failures that makes you realize, guys, that you can never ever be the only person who's responsible for a delivery. There's no way for you to do it, because you're not the one who's setting the expectation. You're not the one who is sitting in meetings making promises that the company won't probably be able to deliver. Like there's tons of factors that you are not in control of that affects how soon you need to get something done, and the expectations of other people, you can't control that either. And when you realize that it's not worth it, it's not worth trying to overachieve to impress somebody, and then of course when you start impressing them, you need to continue impressing them, because it's at the end of the day the realization that you hopefully will come to is that this is all you. You're the one who is causing all this stress. You don't have to worry. And if you have a manager who is incompetent, then you can actually just play. Then there's only one card to play. And I promise you guys, when I started playing that card, it made my work life so wonderful. And the card was very simple. I actually just do a good job based on what I perceive to be a good job. I write my test, even though I know it takes a little bit longer. I make sure that I have all the information before I start working. I do all the prep work. I do all the stuff that people tend to skip because they're stressed that they're not going to be able to ship on time. And then I took this, and then basically when somebody asks me when is it going to be done? I give them an honest answer. And now I'm never stressed. You will be surprised at how little impact or like negativity and like pushback I get from my stakeholders. But then again, I also pick my stakeholders. I'm not going to work for somebody who expects me to work overtime all the time and like who are trying to basically use me as a way to bridge their own incompetence. So what I want you to take away from this is very simple. There is nothing you can do, no niche, no thing that you can go into like in a predictive manner. I mean, there are different roles, of course, in different companies where you have a chill and low stress environment. A software developer's life in the very start of things is usually fairly hectic. There's a lot of anxiety and performance anxiety and things like that to start off with. It gets a lot better, and you know that you've reached like a good spot. At the very least, I think so, when you realize that you now have the skills to do senior levels work, or like to do the job well. And if you're still stressed, that's not because you lack the skills. It is because you are allowing that stress into your life, and you need to have the courage to just say no. Actually, you know what? I know that I'm a good software developer. I know that I can do all the things that are necessary. And now it's really just about breathing and doing a good job, regardless of what the expectations are. Because the problem is what the problem is. And if something takes 2 days to do, it takes 2 days, not 1 day. Have a great day.